good morning and welcome to Shoot Online.
No, thank you for coming, and thank you Shoot Online for recognizing Morocco Solos FC. So we are here and we thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I mean, the beautiful birds are flying very high and a brilliant start to the season you guys are having.
Brilliant start. We are very happy, and coming from the Glad Africa Championship and being number one twice, occupying the opposition twice, that means we are doing something right. And we are planning to stay in the top 8. Yeah.
Just what is it that you are doing right? I mean, such a brilliant start to the season. Is it something that has surprised you, or is it something that you guys anticipated?
It's something we anticipated. If you look at the signings that we made, we had to make sure that we keep Swallows in top flight. We had to make sure that Swallows stays in the top 8 so that it can fight for something next season. So if we get in top 8, so at least we'll compete for a cup next season. Our supporters have been dying to see something. We wanted silverware because the championship we can't defend, so that has to go back. We want something in the PSL for our supporters.
This start, I mean, let's just reflect. You win the championship, you get promoted. A lot of clubs do what you have done, strengthen for life in the Premiership. What is it about the team that you had that helped you get promotion, that you felt needed strengthening? I mean, a lot of people say, if these boys have done so well, why don't you give them the opportunity to show what they can do in the elite league?
I always give an example of racing. So you watch Formula 1, you see the Formula 1 cars racing. So a Formula 1 cannot be compared to a GTI. A GTI is fast on the freeway, but it won't do the same on the track. So it's the same as the players. You have players that can do well in the championship, but will not necessarily do well in the PSL because PSL is very technical. So there are players that were matured for the PSL, but there were players that still needed to have some game time in the championship. So taking them into the Premier League was just going to destroy them. So the coach felt that out of the 30 players that he had, half of that can go into the PSL and half needed to be released and given the opportunity to grow more, and then maybe they'll be recalled into the club. Yeah.
And I mean, you signed some big name players, some experienced players. Just take us into the thinking behind that whole process of finding the players. I'll explain why. A lot of clubs and a lot of people who follow football seem to think coaches say, I want that player, or the chairman says, I want that player. How does it work at Swallows in terms of signing players?
At Swallows, we work differently. So when we hire a coach, that coach takes full responsibility for what goes on the field. So when we want players, we go to the coach and say, Coach, are you happy with your squad? If he says yes, then we keep the same players. But what happened when we got promoted, the coach came with a long list. That also included players that were contracted with other clubs. Then we started engaging those clubs to see if we can get those players into Swallows. That's why you see we have Semi Siabi from Sundowns. We have Thabo Matlaba as well. Thabo Matlaba was also on the list, but fortunately he became a free agent. So the players that we got at Swallows were the players that were requested by the coach. The coach requested those players. We looked at them and said, okay, we approve. This one we're not approving because of these reasons. And he was happy with that. So every single player, the coach was consulted. Yeah, there was consultation because it was his list. The consultation was merely because we said, okay, this one we cannot afford, or this one is not a Swallows type of player. And also he made it easy for us. He made a list with option A and option B. So if you can't get this one, get me that one. So we did what he wanted, and we are happy that he's doing well because he's got the support. We're giving him the support.
So you've got the squad that you believe will take Swallows to where you want to, and earlier on you spoke of a potential top 8 finish.
We've got the squad that we believe will keep Swallows in the Premiership and make sure that we get top 8 or above. That's what we're fighting for.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brandon Trutor, your coach. A fairly young coach who does not have Premiership experience, yet you have shown confidence in him by keeping him. It's not a lot of clubs that do that. A lot of clubs will find them finding a technical guy or a guy who has been there.
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind just Swallows staying to the man who has been with them?
You know, it was very important that we keep Trutor, because a lot of people, especially our supporters, don't understand that there's a lot of analysis that goes into a decision making. So we don't just fire a coach when he loses 2 games or 3 games. You first have to assess, how did the coach lose the games, or how did the coach win the games? Because you can win games and still get fired, because you are not, your winnings are not sustainable. If someone comes with different tactics, you'll lose a couple of games in a row. So Trutor is he plans every game, and he consults, and he makes sure that you understand that he's taking this decision based on that. So he doesn't just do things without letting you know what he's doing. And he makes sure that, you know, he keeps the lineup to himself. So he will do the lineup, and we'll only see it on social media or when the team goes to play. So there is no interference at all on management's part. So the winnings, when he wins the league or wins the games, that is all his work. He makes sure that his technical team is updated, they are working together, they are doing everything they can. And we want someone like that is a team player. He plays with his team. So it's very important that we kept him, and it's very important that we made sure that we don't fire him or say he's not good enough for PSL, because he promoted the team from Glad Africa. So you promote the team, you must be given a chance to prove that you can take the team further. Only then we can say, okay, let's sit down and have a look at what you've done. And you look at the games that he's played, 5 games, no losses. I mean, it just proves that we've made the right decisions. Mm.
A lot of people are excited. Swallows is a big club with a very rich history in South African football. And for it to be back, it's one of those, you know, good things for South African football. Let's talk about that. What are you guys thinking as Bakwiti, as the owners of Swallows, in terms of rebuilding this brand and getting it to be among the top 3 as it used to be in the past?
You know, Swallows has to go back to where it was. Swallows used to fill up stadiums. The original derby, when you talk about the original derby, is not Chiefs and Pirates. The original derby is Swallows and Pirates. So we're looking forward to our game with Pirates in January, because that will be the original derby. And we have to make sure that Swallows stays in the Premiership. So the goal for us is not to go and say we want to win the league. We want to make sure that we build a strong club that can compete in the PSL, competing from the top 8 above. We don't want to be sitting anywhere below the top 8, because we want to guarantee our supporters something. So it is important that Swallows stays within the top 8 so that it can be a strong brand that it was once a strong brand. So it has to stay in the PSL.
And how are you going to do that?
We have to make sure that we give the coach the support. If the coach says he wants a player, we have to assess the need for that player and then make sure that we support the coach. Also make sure that everyone that works with the team, from your kit guy to a bus driver, everyone has to be happy, because everyone plays a role there. If a bus driver is late, it's going to affect the entire team. If the kit manager is not at work, the team won't have training material, or they won't have the kit to play. So everyone has to work together and everyone has to be happy. It has to be a happy team, but we also have to make sure that we have good players, but at the same time, our MDC needs to produce players for the future, because we need to have the Swallows way of playing, and that can only be achieved if MDC is being trained by people that knows that Swallows needs to play this way to make sure that it progresses.
And I suppose as the chairman, that's your responsibility. You have to make sure that everything is in place. David Mogashoa is a businessman. Bakwiti, you own Bakwiti, isn't it?
Yes.
Your football knowledge, your football background, because you always hear people say, oh yeah, that chairman is not a football man.
Yeah.
Are you a football man?
I'm a football man. I've always been in football, even though it was not professional football, but I've always been in football. I've been involved with Swallows from when it was still in ABC, because I'm sure you'll recall when Swallows was relegated 2014, 2015, it went to the National First Division, and then 2 games just before it was relegated further to ABC. The team was just handed to Panyaza, because he was the only person that was vocal, that loved Swallows so much. Leon Prince said to him, you're the only person that loves this club. Just take this thing. No paperwork, no nothing. Just take this thing. So the man had to make sure that the team continues playing. But, it was not just a handout, say, take this thing, and it was a club that made money. No, it was more like, take this problem.
Yes.
Because it was a problem at the time. Owed a lot of people, a lot of money, owed the receiver of revenue a lot of money. Panyaza had to take all those things and make sure that the team goes forward. So he carried the team from NFD into ABC Motsepe until where the load became too much, and he called me in to say, please come assist. I was in ABC Motsepe. I remember we were watching games sitting on cooler boxes. The Twitter account that you see on Swallows now, I started that Twitter account while it was in ABC Motsepe. I even covered the professional game that we played with Maritzburg on Twitter. I was doing that. Yeah. So I've always been with Swallows, and that's why you still see Panyaza there. He's played a big role, and he's made sure that the Swallows brand stays. There are people that supported Swallows when there was no Swallows, except for Panyaza walking around with the Swallows tie. That's the only Swallows they knew. There was no Swallows. And he kept the Swallows flag flying high. So a person like that has to stay with the brand. Has to stay, yeah.
What does your involvement as Bakwiti in the clubs, what is it?
Okay. I'll start where Panyaza asked me to come in and assist in the ABC Motsepe. He said to me, come and assist because my money is finished. I've used my policies, I've cashed my policies, I used my kids' school fees, but we cannot let the brand die. Because of my relationship with him, I said, okay, it's fine. I'll come in, we'll have to look at a status because staying in the ABC, it's going to take long and it's going to be very expensive to try and get promoted from there up to the PSL. So the quickest way would be to get a status in the NFD, then we'll buy the status, Bakwiti will buy the status in NFD, and then we will get the club promoted from there. So Bakwiti bought a status in NFD of Maccabi, and then we played as Swallows FC last season. And thank God we won the championship in one season. That was always the plan, but to win it in one season, because we planned that we need to invest a lot and make this team look professional. So you cannot expect to win the league if you're not running professional. So that's why you saw us investing 5.6 million rand in a bus, because that bus had to make sure that the team travels comfortably. So those are the small things that people don't realize. Your team has to stay comfortably. Where they stay, they have to be comfortable. They have to travel in style to make sure that they are comfortable, they are happy. They can also see that the brand is serious. So if they see that the brand is serious, they also take it seriously. And when they take it seriously, they perform. But unfortunately, things didn't go the way we wanted them to go. We lost our first 5 games, left us at position 14. We played 5 games, we won 1, we drew 1, we lost 3. But that was still not good enough to fire a coach. But you looked at how the coach won his game and how he drew his game. Then you say, okay, those results were not going to take us into the PSL. Had we kept the same coach, we were not going to be in PSL. Because you speak to the coach and he tells you, we are building, then you know, then you are not going there. So we had to make a decision to say, coach, let's part ways nicely because we are not going where we're supposed to be going. That's where we got Trutor in at position 14, and he took us into the PSL.
The championship. You won as late as you did last season. When that happens, what does then the whole Swallows board think? We are in the Premiership now. Let's plan for that. And did you then start looking for players?
At Swallows, it's like, I always say to the coach when he comes here, it's like, welcome to the military base. Because we plan like military here. We started planning for PSL when we were 9 points behind Ajax.
You believed you would be promoted even there?
Yeah, because we still had to play Ajax and there was no way we were going to lose to Ajax. Number one, because we've beaten them before. So if we beat you once, we're going to beat you again. Number two, because the coach is from Cape Town. He doesn't want to lose to a Cape Town team. So we knew that if we play Ajax, whether we played them in Cape Town or in Joburg, we're going to beat them. So that will then reduce the points to 6 points. And then we identified other teams that we're going to get our points from there and from there. And that plan worked. And good thing is, we don't look at the entire fixture and say, okay, we must do this. No. Once we've done our planning, then we go back. to one game at a time. Because we've identified our targets, now we go one game at a time. So now we know we're still playing Pirates, for example, next year. Our focus is on golden arrows and golden arrows only, because that is our next game. So that's how we won the championship. We planned on the next game. We looked at the fixture and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get our points from here, here, here. Okay, we forget about that now. Now let's look at the next game. Yeah. So we planned and knew where we're going to get our points and how we're going to get our points. Just like now, you see Solos, currently we're on position 1 after beating Chiefs. We planned, we knew where we were going to get our points. We had a we do a 5-game planning. Say, okay, we've got 5 games. Out of the 5 games, we expect minimum 9 points. Now we looked at the team and say, okay, we're going to get our points from this one, that one, and that one. That one, maybe we can lose or we can draw, but if we draw, it will be good enough. But our target is 9 points. Because my target for the season is 45 points. If I get 45 points, we guarantee top 8 and we won't be relegated. The next year we can start saying, we want to win the league. We can go public and say we want it. But now target is 45 points.
How has the reaction been to Swallows being back? I mean, like we talk of a historical club here.
Yeah.
You know, a club that produced some of the great players in this country, your ex-Minimis, the late Andres Panyas and Maseko. How have you found the reaction? Yes, you can't judge it because we are not getting fans into the stadiums now because of the COVID-19. But how has the reaction been to the club being back?
It has been a bit of a mixed reaction because people, you have people that still don't understand that Moroka Solos and Solos FC is one and the same. Moroka Solos was relegated up to the ABC Motsepe League. That's where we were, in ABC Motsepe. We own the intellectual property of Moroka Solos. So Moroka Solos and Solos FC is one and the same. So people are saying, no, this is not the same Solos. There's a Solos FC. It's not. It's still the same club. So, but the people that understand, that have always been there, you've got the likes of Rasta, you know, our supporter. They've been there with the Solos in the ABC Motsepe. They know we sat on cooler boxes watching Solos play in the ABC Motsepe with all those supporters. There's old people that you still see at the stadium, that you saw at the stadium last season, are the same people that were with us in the ABC Motsepe.
They stayed loyal.
They stayed loyal even when there was nothing. You know, you just sit there and you get dust blowing all over you. There was no fancy stadium suites and all those things. We're sitting on cooler boxes watching the club play because we wanted the club back in the PSL. But we had to have a plan to say this club must go into the PSL and make sure that it plays as a Solos FC until we have cleaned up everything. Then we can re-register it as Moroka Solos.
Well, are there some links to the old Solos in terms of, say, maybe personnel? You know, do you still have your Ndate Kulu and all those guys as part of the club?
Very important to have people that have been with Moroka Solos because Ndate Kulu understands Solos. He knows what led to the downfall of Solos, and I don't think he wants to see Solos back there. I mean, if you get beaten, you don't want to be beaten twice. You know, so he is there. He's the CEO of the club. And it's very good to have him there. He knows more about Solos. He knows the history of Solos. And it's not only Bapulu that's still with Solos. We've got Braedi Kaluza. He's there. He's also been with Solos for a very long time. So 1940-something, they were there with Solos. So they understand the history. So it's important that they share that history with us, the young ones at Solos, to make sure that we make sure and maintain that Solos stays in the PSL.